Alright guys, let me ask you something. In a world where everyone thinks bigger is better, how does a small company from Indiana take on the titans of the auto industry and prove them all wrong? This is a wild story, y'all. It's about an engine that wasn't built to be the biggest, but was engineered to be one of the toughest and smartest. It's a story of how a true underdog, born out of pure necessity, went on to become a legend on the racetrack and challenge the giants of Detroit at their own game. This is the insane story of the Studebaker V8. See, our story starts in post-war America. The country is booming, and in Detroit, the big three of Ford, GM, and Chrysler were in an all-out horsepower war. Their playbook was simple. There is no replacement for displacement. Showrooms were packed with these massive, gas-hungry V8s, and each new model was bigger and badder than the one before. Even the really advanced stuff, like the Cadillac overhead valve V8 from '49, was still this giant power plant built to haul around heavy luxury cars. The message from the Motor City was loud and clear. If you wanted power, you needed size, or at least that's what they thought. But way out in South Bend, Indiana, the independent car maker Studebaker was at a crossroads. They were a much smaller company, and they just couldn't go toe-to-toe with Detroit's money and endless production lines. They knew they needed a modern V8 engine to stay in the game, but they also knew that trying to build a bigger engine than the big three was a fight they were guaranteed to lose. So if they couldn't win by being bigger, they had to get smarter. They took a huge gamble, designed a totally new V8 from the ground up, one that would win with innovation, not just brute force. And in 1951, they dropped a bomb on the whole industry. Now, they were a couple of years behind Cadillac and Oldsmobile, but get this, they were years ahead of Ford and Chevy getting their own modern overhead valve V8s to market. At first glance, it didn't look like much. It was a tiny little thing, just 232 cubic inches, making a pretty modest 120 horsepower. But listen to this, y'all. The magic wasn't the numbers on the page, it was in how they built it. Studebaker's engineers made this thing incredibly tough, basically overbuilt for its size. It had a forged steel crankshaft and a cam driven by gears, not a chain. These are parts that scream durability, the kind of stuff some of the big guys were cutting corners on to save a buck. This little engine was so efficient, its power-to-weight ratio was right up there with Chrysler's legendary Hemi. Ain't that kind of crazy though? This wasn't just another motor, it was a statement. And this is where the story gets really good. When you put that lightweight V8 into Studebaker's sleek and aerodynamic cars, you created a machine that was perfectly balanced. With less weight over the front wheels, the car could dance in a way the heavy Detroit barges just couldn't. Owners found out real quick that their Studebakers felt way faster and more nimble than the spec sheet would have you believe. And while it wasn't even designed for racing, that built-in toughness made it an instant favorite for hot rodders and racers. Its rock-solid internals could handle a crazy amount of stress. The engine block was so strong that Studebaker just kept making it bigger over the years, creating the legendary 259 and 289 versions. They even slapped a supercharger on it, creating the R-Series engines that went on to set a ton of speed records. This tiny V8 consistently punched way above its weight, becoming a winner on the drag strip and a real contender in NASCAR. It was living proof that smart engineering could beat pure size. In the end, even this incredible V8 couldn't save Studebaker from the market pressures that finally closed their doors in the 60s. But its legacy, that's a whole other story. It put the fear into Detroit. It forced the giants to stop and think about making things smaller, lighter, and more efficient. They were basically building the blueprint for the small, high-performance V8, years before it became the standard. Its whole philosophy laid the groundwork for future icons, like the aluminum Buick 215, and maybe even the legendary small block Chevy. The Studebaker V8 was a testament to the idea that the best thinking doesn't always come from the biggest players. It came from an underdog that, when facing impossible odds, decided not to just play the game, but to change it completely. So what are your thoughts on this? Do you think a small, clever company could still pull something like this off today? Please drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you love stories about forgotten automotive legends and engineering that changed the world, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching. The Studebaker V8 is way more than just a cool piece of trivia. It's a reminder that the biggest breakthroughs can come from where you least expect them. It wasn't the biggest V8 and it wasn't the most powerful, but it was one of the toughest and most forward-thinking engines of its time. It's a symbol of what a small team with a big idea can do, proving that sometimes David's cleverness is the only stone he needs.